Okay, well, there's a couple of little things I want to talk about involving what I've seen online in some of the news services and whatnot. And I remember back, a few years ago now, when I was first on YouTube and that, it was a very different climate before Trump started campaigning, and well, in America you always seem to have that neoconservative friggin' thing, especially during the Bush era and stuff like that. And still amongst Republicans during the Obama years, it's sort of this neoconservative concepts were still very strong, and especially amongst those who had the ideas of getting everything as cheap as they can, because this is capitalism, and well, we can get people, and this is literally the case, to work for, I think it works out 24 Canadian cents. I don't know what that is in American dollars. I'm not too sure what it is in Australian dollars, but you probably know. 24 cents an hour in Bangladesh, and this is capitalism, and of course it was also a convenient scapegoat to offshore everything, because we make it better for the consumer, and it's this whole idea of throwing the idea of being a producer first, and with your earnings then being a consumer, out the window, and just putting the consumer as one individual sole entity with no connection to any need to actually produce to continue to consume. Anyways, Trump talked about a few things with his, during his campaigning days, and there's one that sort of come up, and then it sort of involving China and that, and it sort of faded off a little bit. And well, it was a subject that, regardless of me being sort of a right-leaning libertarian, this neo-conservative idea hated it, and that was the idea of tariffs. Oh yeah, but boo-hoo, it's not true capitalism if we can't get it done in the lowest price possible and resell it for a reasonable, if not ridiculous, profit. And this is, in the garment industry, it's referred to as the race to the bottom. That's what they call it. And it's where they keep chasing around this contractor and that subcontractor, and they try and work out who's got the lowest price. And well, we've got another person to quote lower, and can you? And in the end, some of these guys are quoting against people that don't exist, because we've found someone who can do it cheaper. Can you still go cheaper? The reality is they haven't. They're just trying to get this guy to absolutely go as low as possible on his costs for producing clothes and stuff like that. And lo and behold, Trump's decided to put a few tariffs on steel and aluminium and whatnot, and all this neoconservative bullshit has all come back to the surface again. Of I shouldn't have to pay any more than I absolutely have to pay, and if that's the way you feel, you can continue down the path of buying everything from China, and you're going to be looking at the Obama years once more, because, well, minus all the regulations that have been taken off business, but still it's the same sort of crap, because they're so desperate to have true capitalism and get things at the lowest cost that they keep buying off China, and that means everything is already offshore, and it stays offshore. But the trouble with this is it's a self-perpetuating circle. It's a catch-22, and it goes like this. I want everything to be cheap as dirt, so all the manufacturing goes to China. And then, well, I don't have a job anymore because the economy's slowing up because everything's been offshored. And as the economy goes slow and the manufacturing dies and you become a service industry, service-based economy, as they call it, and as it's also known, the barista economy of everyone making minimum wage and getting fucking 20 to 25-hour weeks, then, oh shit, we can't afford it even more. So then you absolutely have to rely on this Chinese stuff because you can't afford good stuff. And the reason you can't afford good stuff is because half the goddamn economy's been offshored to China. You know what I'm saying? It's a catch-22. I am poor, therefore I want cheap products from Bangladesh, from Vietnam, from China, and then, you know, all those things are made there. Then you're back to being a service-based economy. You're back to, you know, these terrible blooming jobs that pay jack shit and aren't full-time jobs, and then because you're in those jobs you can't afford to do anything except buy the cheap shit, and so then the sweatshop owners and the goddamn slave drivers that some of these guys are, they keep going, and the economy is further and further offshored and gets tighter and tighter, and it's a downward fucking spiral. Another part where I can show it's a downward spiral is the money that's earned in America by Americans gets spent on Chinese shit. And, you know, a bit more money flows around and you get your next paycheck and you got to buy more. You know, you need to buy more clothes or whatever, or your TV's buggered or whatever, so you go and buy another one, and it's all Chinese. And everything you buy, every manufactured product you buy is Chinese. Every food product you buy might be American, but it's on subsidised money. This is the funniest thing. Americans always going on about frickin' capitalism and the free market, yet holy shit, you've got some subsidised things going on there that, you know, in so-called not as right-wing / left-leaning Australia, they would absolutely pummel the shit out of them if they, like, I'll give you an example. We had a drought here that was a fairly fantastical drought. We had fucking dust storms and everything. And in a place that's usually green, you know, for 9 months of the year. And they wanted to give out drought relief to farmers. And you know what it was? They just helped you pay your power bill so you had more money left for the mortgage. And you had arseholes whinging in the newspaper. Oh, you know, no other country in the world would do this, only Australia would do this. Hello? Most of Europe, if not nearly all of Europe, has subsidised farming, and so does America. You know? And you're sitting there going, what the fuck are they talking about? They subsidise the shit out of thing of corn, they subsidise fucking sugar, and that's a real bad move, subsidising American sugar. The shit that's involved in the little sugar deal, everyone's getting fucked except the sugar producers. I mean, the consumer, the fucking everyone, except the sugar producers. Even the environment's been fucked by them. And, you know, here they were, once-off thing, no. Don't want to do it, don't want to deal with it, you know. And you look at the subsidies in the American farming system and fucking hell. But anyway, back to the point. The food you buy might be subsidised American food, but the products you buy will be Chinese products. And what is basically happening with your food, your money's cycling, American money cycling inside America. But all the manufactured goods you buy, there's money that leaves America, goes to China, and repeat, and repeat, and repeat. And there's basically a transfer of wealth and as a result, a trade deficit between America and China, because American money hasn't been bouncing around inside America, it's been emptying out continuously to China. And that's another effect of this, drop as low as you can go, catch-22 downward spiral, because it's not just that people keep getting poorer, it's that America makes China richer at its own expense. And when you start buying American-made stuff, the money just bounds around inside America, and it's just Americans keeping their own money inside their own country, not flushing the whole lot out the plug hole down to some fucking slave-driving Chinese sweatshop owner. Some of the shit I've seen, there's one where they were pressing out, I think it was steel enamel dishes or pots or some bloody thing like this, like steel pots. Some of you have been in the auto industry or been inside auto factories, as I have many years ago as a kid, and you've seen the giant steel presses they have there. They had two guys that actually would sit inside the frickin' steel press, a bunch of flat sheet metal on a pallet on one side, and the finished, well, I don't know about finished, but, pressed product on the other. Put their hand out, grab a bit of this unfinished sheet metal, put it in place, bang, down it go, press it, lift it out, put it, and this thing's going up and down, and they've got two guys sitting fucking inside the steel press. One guy was a bit taller, and every time the steel press come down, he had to duck his head so the fucking thing wouldn't slap him on the damn head. But he's inside the machine. The two of them are inside the machine. This is the sort of shit that happens when they make Chinese products. The safety factor is fucking terrible. And from having been involved in heavy construction-related shit and that, sometimes you hear some things that come through, and the amount of construction workers that die there is fucking unbelievable. I have seen photos of concrete formwork that's collapsed after they poured the concrete, and it's a fucking mess. And, people die, and all you got is just this big tangle of steel and spattered fucking concrete. It's a fuck up, and it's all because they're too tight to do it properly, And some of the steel they're using is no good as steel to begin with, But anyway, it's one of these things that the more you flush the money out of the country, the less money you've got in the country. Now, I've seen all this play out in Australia to fantastically shit effect. And what basically happened was we had a recession in this state that, I wasn't here to really see, and I was only young at the time, but it really fucked the shit out of the place. No sooner did they finally, they still hadn't even recovered from the recession that had been caused. It was only, happened in like 91. Well, in about 95, they took all the tariffs off. So the people that got burnt in the collapse of a building society and several banks that collapsed along with it, like a domino effect, those people that got burnt there, some lost their life savings, some sold a house, invested the money, were going to buy another house in a couple of months' time, and guess what? Lost the fucking lot. And they've gone from house owners to now renting. And, people went through that shit in 1991. By 1995, they then hit them again by removing all the tariffs. And, there was a lot of boring factory jobs, and they were fucked. The tariffs were removed, and they just fucking went down like shit. And the long and short of it is a lot of these people were unskilled, and, let's face it, some of them were white trash, and, but it was still alright that they were white trash. They still had a job. They still paid their own way. And they went on welfare, and some of them got other jobs as time went on, but plenty of them fell into the welfare rut. And you say, oh yeah, they're going welfare, but they'll find a job, and 3 years later, when the jobs become available, they'd got accustomed to waking up at lunchtime and doing fuck all day, and too much alcohol and far too many bongs and joints and stuff. And, well, you know, they'd lost their momentum, they'd lost their motivation, they fell on the welfare rut, and years later when the jobs reappeared, or may have reappeared, and let's face it, the place was never the same again. In most cases, the jobs, you know, only a few reappeared. It didn't really come back like it was, but it might have come back to half of what it was. And even if there were jobs available, when it come back to half of what it was, employers expected a lot more because they knew that people were more desperate for work, and there were some people that just fell into that welfare rut and they never come out. So you've gone from paying a little bit extra money on a high quality Australian made shirt to greedy corporations making you pay the same fucking amount for a Chinese made shirt, and these white trash going from paying their own way. I mean, they might have been, you know, drunken idiots on the weekend, but at least they still paid their rent, they paid their food, they paid for their life, to being welfare recipients, and you had to pay for them out of your taxes for years to come. While you had shit Chinese shirts that die within 6 months that you're still paying the same fucking money for as you did beforehand after the tariffs come off. And this is a little trick. If you ever have tariffs come on, when they take the tariffs off, when they offshore, like for instance, one footwear manufacturer for work boots stayed for many years. They finally closed them and they went offshore, and the quality of the boots was fucking shit. They went down to only being as half as good as they were before, wearing out 3 times as quick in some cases, and yet the price remained the same, you know. And so this is the thing you may be faced with, you know, keep buying Chinese shit at a set price, or buy American stuff at a little bit higher price, while the Chinese stuff is actually slightly dearer than the American stuff, so then you go for the American-made stuff because the Chinese stuff is slightly overpriced, and let's face it, the quality of Chinese stuff is always dodgy. And there's the other aspect too. The Chinese have put lead paint in children's toys. They've done some fucking crazy shit things. You know, they've even made fake wine, I found out, that had frickin' acid in it to give it that burn that you have when you have the alcohol. I'm not fucking joking. Of course, it was only sold inside China. But some of the things that goes on, you know, they don't give a shit when it comes to money. They'll do whatever they got to do, regardless of the morals just go out the fucking window. It's as simple as that. But at least if stuff's made inside America, you know, you've got a chance to sue them if they fuck up, you know, versus some faceless fucking Chinese manufacturer. You know, at least you still got things that have got some checks and balances, and, you know, and things like that. The real question, you know, is, are you willing to pay an extra 20 cents on the dollar to enrich your own country and to have money build up inside your own country? Or are you willing to just sort of, you know, because then you start spiraling upwards again as opposed to spiraling downwards, because the money keeps rebounding inside the country. And all this shit about, oh, they're going to retaliate. Oh, fuck off, fuck off. They retaliated years ago. That was part of the reason why there's so much money going out, but fuck all people buying American stuff. Back in the early thousands, the American government pushed to get China in the World Trade Organization. And the narrative they were pushing then was, we're going to do this so American goods can be sent to China and sold to Chinese. Well, the reality is that's not what happened. It went the other way. And, you know, they've got incredibly subsidised shit in China. And, you know, all this, oh, they're going to retaliate. They fucking retaliated years ago. You try and sell a motorbike in India, it has a 100% tariff. It's what Harley Davidson said, you know, and you could go look it up. And this is the thing, you talk about Thailand, for instance. Thailand's got another trick, and they're even more arseholes in the way that when it comes to bulldozers, you know, I've been involved in the radiator industry. We were manufacturing radiators for Caterpillar, quite a lot of them, and they wanted to build a bulldozer plant in Thailand, because if they imported bulldozers, they were going to get something like a 50% tariff or something fairly high. And they were so hardcore with their tariffs, it wasn't just, well, if you import a bulldozer, there's a 50% tariff. They were so fucking picky, the Thai government, they would actually make it so that if you built a bulldozer in a Thai factory and it had more than 25% parts, I'm not joking, 26% parts that were foreign made and 74% Thai made parts, you would still get the 50% tariff. Not fucking joking. And Caterpillar was setting up a factory in Thailand to make bulldozers for the whole Asian market. And they said to us, we're getting damn close to our 25%, because I believe they might have been getting engines or some other more specialised part from America. And they said, we can't afford to have radiators made in Australia because that'll tip us over the 25% limit, and then we'll have a 50% tariff. So these people are so fucking hardcore, it's not importing an entire bulldozer to Thailand that gives you a tariff. It's importing more than 25% of parts in a bulldozer made in Thailand, hits you up with a 50% tariff. There's, never mind retaliation, they've fucking retaliated before before Trump even got into power. You know, they retaliated 15 years ago, you know, and this is the whole thing, all this scare bear shit of retaliation. What are you talking about? It's fucking already happened, you know. And if they retaliate, oh, well, so what? You know, all this aluminum and steel thing, you know, China saying that, well, we're going to block US soybean imports. Oh, fucking whoopee-doo. You know, they're in a country that's doesn't always have as much food as it would like to have, and they're going to block food imports. That whole debacle that happened with the Chinese tyres, they try to fuck you around with exporting chicken. Yeah, and the other thing is, those soya beans, are they being made with subsidised money to begin with? Is the American taxpayer helping grow soya beans at a lower than cost price to then sell to the Chinese? And you'll be selling them to the Chinese for fuck all worth of jack shit, because that's the way it always works with the Chinese. You never sell Chinese stuff at an expensive price. You always sell it for fuck all to them. And I know all about that in this country, by hell. We were selling them natural gas, and it was 10 cents a litre, while the rest of the world was paying 17, 18 cents a litre. And the bastards come up and they wanted it even cheaper. And it's like, fuck off. You're paying like half of what the rest of I might have it wrong. I think they're actually paying a quarter of what the world price was. Because they got a 10-year deal with us. And the oil price had gone right up, and the natural gas price had gone right up. And they were getting it for a quarter of the world price. And the fuckers wanted it even cheaper. It was almost time to sign another contract because the 10-year deal was almost ending, and the bastards wanted it even cheaper again. And it's like, get real. Like, you're getting it for a quarter of the price and you're still whinging that you want it for like, what, 15% the world price? Fucking hell, they'll drive into the ground if you give them a chance. You know, there's one thing you got to realise, even the days, 1970s, you know, Canton World Fair, they bought all this stuff out, and you know, people flew over, made all these deals, right, to buy all this Chinese stuff and bring it back to England, Australia, America, whatever. You know, a lot of it was only, you know, fabrics and like tea towels and fucking tablecloths and shit like that. But 2 weeks after it had ended and all the deals had been signed, they decided to whack an extra export tax on, and of like 10%. So they fucked all the people who had, you know, decided to help them by buying their shit. I mean, you know. Long and short of it is, I've seen what happens when you take tariffs off. And what happens is you wake up in Obama's America. When you put tariffs on, we were not only buying stuff made by ourselves, we were also exporting stuff, and the money went up and up and up and up, and there was no longer a trade deficit, it was a trade surplus, and the jobs were thick and fast, and you still look at it today. I'm in a place today where we're earning $25.50 and some of us are getting $26.50 an hour. So a quarter of that is, so you're looking at is like about $19, $20 American per hour. And we've literally had damn near half the place leave recently to go to better paying jobs. It's the way it is in Australia, you know. And we're, you know, going well, but we're actually going well on the back of Chinese invested money. So, but anyway, it's my little thought on tariffs.